Hi, this is Laura Kelly, chair of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, here with our endorsed candidate, Monica Mateo Salinas.
Hi.
She's running for Miami Beach Commissioner Group 1 in a runoff on December 9th. Monica, congratulations.
Thank you.
You came in top of all of the, six candidates?
6 candidates, that's right.
On the November 4th election.
That's right.
I could not be more proud of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And tell us, what led you to run for Miami Beach Commissioner?
Thanks, Laura. I really appreciate your kind words. I mean, I'm still really kind of humbled and gobsmacked that I came in first. I worked very hard on this campaign, very hard. And I really do believe that is what pushed me to the top. I had, a lot of time and effort and knocking on doors spent working on this campaign. I loved every moment of it. I was against some really great candidates as well. And, they performed well as well. They should all be proud of themselves. I am now in the runoff, December 9th, as you stated, and thank you again for your endorsement. And I'm going to work just as hard. I love politics. I love doing this. And I want to make sure that I represent the people of Miami Beach properly, everyone. And I'm going to do just that.
I love it. I cannot say enough about just, the fact that the work shows in the outcome. And, it's not who had the most money, because you, correct me if I'm wrong, you definitely did not have the most money in this race.
That's right. That's right.
But you definitely show that you did the most work.
Yes.
And
I did work very hard, yes. And again, I mean, credit to my opponents. They also worked hard. They also did, their part. I just know that there were moments where I was so tired and I just kept going, and, it really, again, it paid off in the end. I also will say that, I've been a resident of Miami Beach for 16 years, so I have a lot of friendships, a lot of connections. I've helped a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people. And my background also, I have a background in helping professions, in nonprofits. I worked in the nonprofit sector prior to getting involved in government. I worked for 2 different commissioners, so I have that experience under my belt as well, where I was helping people and I understood the inner workings of government. So my campaign has really been about showing the voters that I'm the most experienced and the most qualified candidate in the race. And my endorsements lined up with that. I was endorsed by the Miami Herald, as well as several sitting commissioners, including Commissioner Tanya Bott, Commissioner Laura Dominguez, and Commissioner Alex Fernandez. And they know that I'm the most qualified and experienced candidate in the race. It's been very evident since the day I filed because of my experience, and because I do government because I like to help people. That's what government, it's a service position.
Yeah.
It's not about a fancy title or bells and whistles and going to events and galas, and those might be nice. I mean, those are, it's good for the community. If there's a nonprofit and they have a gala, they have a fundraiser, it's good for dignitaries to show up to that. It helps their mission. It helps them fundraise. It gives legitimacy to a lot of these nonprofits. But that's kind of tertiary. I like to help people. I'm running because I like to serve. And a little bit about my background. I was the PTA president at Nautilus Middle School, so I got involved in service leadership when I was, when my kids were in elementary school, and I was on the executive committee of the PTA when they were in elementary school. And then when they got to middle school, I was elected PTSA president in Nautilus Middle. Sure. And then they went to Beach High. They're both at Beach High now, go High Tides. And they were kind of like, okay, Mom, please, we're almost grown men, and can you please not be so involved? And I said, yeah, no problem. I'll run for commission. And that's exactly what I'm doing. That is really the timeline and how it all worked out. And I loved being involved. I mean, with the PTA, it's very similar. You manage a budget. Our Nautilus Middle School budget was $100,000 a year. For a middle school, and fundraising with parents, that's a pretty big deal. So we were very proud of that. We had Give Miami Day where we raised $40,000 in one day. I mean, that's very significant. Parents really do care. They chip in. Everybody was giving a helping hand. I had to manage volunteers. We had 25 to 50 volunteers that I had to manage. So it's its own, little business running a PTA. And again, I enjoyed every moment of that. It was always listening to the parents, the teachers, the kids. What can we do to make things better? What can we do to help? And so, it was an obvious step with the commission because I ended up getting hired as a commission aide. Mm-hmm. And because I have a public policy or I have a bachelor's degree in public policy, I was very familiar with government anyway, and I was hired as a commission aide. I worked for two different commissioners. I first worked for Commissioner Kristen Rosen-Gonzalez, and then I worked for Commissioner Alex Fernandez. I had a great time with both of them. They have very different styles. I learned a lot from both of them. And I decided I was ready to run, and so I had a conversation with Commissioner Fernandez, and I moved to a different department in the city, and then I registered to run in April, and here we are.
It's amazing. Also, I just wanted to point out that Miami Beach had this amazing turnout in an off-cycle election year. And I think it really just shows that people were really invested in voting in these elections. So we had like almost 35% turnout, if I'm not correct.
That's right. Yep.
Which is almost unheard of for again, off-cycle election year for a municipal election. In city of Miami, I think it was like almost 22%, 21 point something percent, which is still actually the highest voter turnout in since the 1990s in Miami. Yeah. I can't say this. I don't know the exact, details for Miami Beach, but almost 35% is extraordinary.
It's great. Yeah.
What do you think motivated voters to come out and turn out in those numbers?
Well, we had a mayoral election and we had the commission election, 3 different commissioners. Commissioner Dominguez was up for re-election as well as Commissioner Fernandez.
Both of whom won.
That's right. They both won. Congratulations to both of them. And congratulations to Mayor Minor, who won as well. We also had in my race 6 different people, and people really, they care in Miami Beach. They know that their vote is their voice. And we have a lot of informed and involved neighbors and neighborhood organizations all over Miami Beach, Mid Beach, North Beach, South Beach. Everyone has an involved neighborhood organization. And it's really actually quite amazing because our residents in Miami Beach truly want the best for Miami Beach. And so, they talk, they get together, they have meetings, they have, they vote, they send, recommendations to the commission. And they get involved when it's time to vote. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to live in Miami Beach where we have such an informed and involved voter and resident capacity. It's great.
Can I tell you a little story?
Of course.
I have a friend, a couple that that lives in Miami Beach, and they both had ordered their mail-in ballots. The wife had to travel for work, and she didn't get her ballot in time. But she was so committed to voting in this election that she actually had her ballot FedExed by her husband. It was totally legal to where she was in Italy and sent back. It got counted in time.
Wow. That's commitment. That's right.
Absolutely. And actually, it did not. So her ballot was supposed to come in on the 10th, and it didn't. She actually didn't get it until like the 22nd.
Oh, wow.
So they really had to do like an overnight FedEx International in order to make sure their ballot was counted. So you're absolutely right. In Miami Beach, and I'm sure this is true for other people as well in other localities, but there's a real commitment to using your voice in this way. And I think it's tremendous.
It is. It's great. It's great. It's great. And everybody wants the best for their neighborhood, for their area, for their block, for the beach. And it's really inspiring. So I'm really pleased to be a part of this. Really, truly.
Absolutely.
So, thanks.
Well, I know we're going to go all in. We have been, we're going to go all in for you now that we can. Of course, we were not able to support or endorse a candidate when there's multiple Democrats in the race. But now that there is one Democrat in the race, we are able to go all in, and we're very excited to do that.
Thank you.
And we want to make sure we support you.
Thank you.
What are your 3 top priorities for, your position as commissioner when you get elected?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So I have a lot of priorities. I will say that as I knocked on doors in Miami Beach, people would say to me, hey, can we do something about this? Can we do something about that? And I started to take notes in my notes app on my phone about these priorities. And I have over 150 items that I'm going to be putting on future commission agendas. I need to organize and clean up the list a little bit because some of them will be referrals to committees. Some of them will be resolutions. Some of them may be ordinances. But I have been taking a tally and a list of concerns, real concerns from people that live in Miami Beach. I will tell you that my top priorities, I'm going to probably start with affordability. Mm-hmm. Affordability is affecting Miami Beach. We used to have an unemployment office in South Beach. We lost that unemployment office. I've had a lot of people say, I can't figure out the online system. Who do I call? Where do I go? And they don't know where to go. So I'd like to see us have an unemployment office come back to Miami Beach. We're seasonal.
Right.
And a lot of times, people, if a hotel downsizes or a restaurant closes for remodeling, unemployment is a concern in Miami Beach. Also, a food pantry. I'd like to see a food pantry somewhere in Miami Beach. As the SNAP issue and the food stamps, it's people need help. People need help.
Our communities are suffering so much right now, in South Florida, around the country, and that really shows the importance of local government. When our national government fails us, then it's our local government that comes to our rescue. And I like to say, and I'm sure you have heard this, or you probably espouse this as well, all politics is local.
That's right. That's right. And we have a very wealthy community in Miami Beach, and they also care. They do. And I've seen it. I mean, I remember with the PTA, we had a family that was homeless, and everyone kind of got together, and, we were able to come through for that family. So, Miami Beach is an extremely caring community, and the churches and the temples, they have clothing drives, they have food drives, and I want to keep that going. And I want to be able to promote that and to help that and to do what I can locally to help some of the families that are suffering and that are going through food insecurity or job insecurity, financial issues. I want to help.
Absolutely. That's great. I think that people might have the misperception that Miami is just, Miami Beach rather
Right.
is just,
Wealthy.
and Collins Avenue and the big houses. But the truth is that Miami Beach is an extremely diverse community, not only in terms of race, religion, national origin, but also socioeconomic status.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And again, we've got some pockets of Miami Beach where, it's a little bit more, I'd say low income, North Beach, South Beach, even in Mid Beach, we have some apartment complexes and, families are living in smaller, affordable buildings and units. And a lot of those families are the dishwashers in the hotels or the, valet workers or the service staff, the service industry in the hotels. And so, they need help. They need help. So, and I know that Miami Beach will rally for the help to help them. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So affordability is one. You mentioned your that you wanted to do the unemployment office, food pantry. What are your other top priorities?
So we also need to help public transportation. I mean, I get so many requests and questions about how can we improve our public transportation. So we have a trolley system which works really well. It's free, so you can take the free trolley. I would like to see it run, with less wait time because, as you know, if it's, 85 degrees and you're sitting on a bus stop in the sun, you're not going to want to take the trolley if you have to wait for 10 plus minutes. So I'd like to increase the trolley fleet. And I've mentioned before, if we wrap the trolleys with advertising, for example, Art Basel, when they come into town, they can wrap the trolleys with, hey, Art Basel's here from December, 3rd through the 9th or whatever the dates are. And that's how we pay for the increased fleet of the trolley. They need to be a little bit more clean. And, I know that we have a contract that's out, an RFP that's out for the trolleys. So I think we're getting there with that. But I do want to see our trolley system work better and be better.
Yeah. And
then lastly, I think I'd love to help our small businesses too, like our mom and pops. at 10 years ago, actually, I wanted to open up an ice cream shop.
Yeah.
And I took, and the city of Miami Beach used to have a class. It was like a small business academy. And it was 4 weeks of a free class. And like the first week was like code compliance 101. And so you would learn, how big do my signs have to be? How many, seats do I need inside? And, and then they would have the second week, it was like the fire department would come out and they'd say, okay, you need 2 emergency exits. And then you need to have, your how many sprinklers, and it was a very informative class and it was free. And they gave it to small businesses that were interested in opening. And if you're a large business, you could take it too. But it was most of the time it was for people who it was their first time doing a business venture in the city of Miami Beach. And it was for small businesses. And I think we should bring that class back. So that way there's no guessing. If you're going to open a business, you need to know exactly what permits you need, how to go about doing it, who's the person to talk to, so you can get up and off the ground as soon as possible. So I'd like to help our small businesses in that manner too. That's another priority.
That's great.
Thank you.
And then, what are some of the lessons that you have learned? Well, I mean, I would say throughout your life, but especially on the campaign trail. Like if you could point to a few that, really resonate with you, not only as a candidate, but as a mom, as a person,
Sure. I think the biggest message that resonated with me and that helped me on this campaign is that, it costs nothing to be kind. Really, truly. I would connect with people and I would listen. And it was always about how can we connect? And we might be different in a lot of different ways, a lot of different aspects. Maybe they, had a different profession, or they had a different, they lived in a different area, but we could always connect as neighbors, always. And every time I spoke with someone, when I knocked on a door, when I went to an event, or when I even walked my dog going down the street, and I would smile at someone and I would recognize someone, or, if I was, like I said, knocking on doors, it was, what do we have in common here? What do we both want to see for Miami Beach that would help everyone, that would help us both, that would help our neighbors, whether they're in North Beach or South Beach or Mid Beach, whether you're a cat lover or a dog lover, whether you're a parent or not, it really doesn't matter. We all want the best for Miami Beach, and there might be different tweaks in how we get there, but we all have commonalities that we want to work together and do the best for Miami Beach. And so every interaction that I had with a voter, it was about connecting on the level of neighbors. And I really do think that people recognize that authenticity where, I wasn't going to come in and say, well, this is what we're going to do here. This is what your neighborhood needs. This is what your block needs, or your building, or your street, or it was, you tell me, and how can I help you?
Right.
Every time, every conversation. And that really resonated with folks. That really resonated with voters. And it resonated with people who aren't voters, because I'm going to represent them too. And I want to do it so that it helps everyone.
Yeah. So listening, active listening, people, like you said, people don't want to be told what to do or what they need. They want to be heard. And,
That's right.
One thing I've learned is that the people have a lot of ideas, a lot of opinions, and I think people often feel disempowered, especially by the, I'm going to say the electoral process or, how government works. And they don't think that sometimes people don't think their vote matters. They don't think that their voice matters. And just to be heard, I think is extremely empowering for people.
Right. Absolutely.
And what do you think distinguishes you as a candidate from your opponent, let's say?
Well, I think that, what distinguishes me is my experience. That I have a bachelor's degree in public policy, that I worked for 2 different commissioners inside City Hall. I've written policy, I've researched policy. I, know the process, the local process of City Hall and government and how it works. And, I know how to get things done. I know how to get results. I also know what we can't do.
Right.
And so I've seen, just in general, and, I think everyone kind of does it when you're running for office. You want to promise everyone everything. You want to say, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I was very careful with my campaign to not overpromise, because I know what can't be done too. There's certain things that are feasible and certain things that aren't. so I was very measured when it came to that as well. But definitely my experience speaks volumes. And again, I do credit my experience to the endorsements that I've been getting, where people, when they speak with me, they go, "Oh, wow, you remember that happened? Yeah. You knew that we had a business class back in 2010? Yeah, I did. I took it. Oh, wow, you knew what happened with that street when we renamed it to what? Yeah, I was here." And that people realize that I have community roots and that I've lived here for so long that I remember, they'll say, "Oh, well, I don't know if you remember, but back in 2008, and I was, yeah, I remember, that's when I moved here, so that speaks volumes too. People know that I've been invested in this community for a very long time.
Yeah, but it also sounds like your experience means that you're not going to have a learning curve or as much of a learning curve when you get into office, that you're going to be able to hit the ground running as a commissioner and start working for the people of Miami Beach.
That's right. And I do, thank you for mentioning that, because I will say that there is a learning curve. There absolutely is a learning curve. And when I was hired as a legislative aide in 2021, I was hired by Commissioner Kristen Rosa Gonzalez, who had been a commissioner previously. So she didn't have that learning curve, but I did.
Right.
But I was able to witness it from the aspect of I had the learning curve, but she didn't.
Right.
So we were really able to get into a groove very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, being a legislative aide for 3 years, there's so much that I've seen and learned. I do feel like, I'm so well equipped to hit the ground running. I don't have that learning curve. It's because it's a lot all at once. And there's committees, there's 3 different committees, and then there's the boards and committees that the residents serve on. There's the budget meetings and hearings, the budget process, which starts in May. It doesn't get passed till October. It's a lot, and I've seen it and I've done it. And I'm ready to do it now as commissioner.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I think also, when it comes to not having that experience, if somebody doesn't have that experience, that's when they can get into that, I guess, over-promising, mm-hmm. Which will only lead to under-delivering, right. Because they don't understand, how the sausage is made.
Right.
And what different, limitations you have in local government.
That's true.
For example, I was a Girl Scout mom. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm still a Girl Scout mom. I'm just on a little bit of a break mm-hmm. right now mm-hmm. with my other commitments. But I remember leading our brownies. Mm-hmm. In one of the things that we wanted to do was to, where I live in Doral, we have the incinerator issue and trash, and the girls really wanted to, write our city council and asked to have, plastic bags banned and straws banned. And it turns out I had to learn, they can't do that. They don't have the power to do that.
That's right. Yep. The state. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I think this is one of my big issues. I don't know how you feel about it. Is that unfortunately our state legislature has taken away a lot of our local control, mm-hmm. and that means it's taken the power out of local communities mm-hmm. and has disempowered those voters and those citizens. So, that's for kind of, I guess, for all of us to kind of deal with in 2026. But how does that local control versus state control impact Miami Beach?
Yeah, a lot of different ways, particularly when it comes to development. There's a lot of, we have a bill now that allows for a certain height. We don't have to now go to vote a referendum when it comes to height increases. Mm-hmm. So that's one way. Short-term rentals, that was also preempted by the state. Short-term rentals have not been good for our housing inventory. Yeah. And it's really actually the brunt of that is being felt on our low income and middle income folks who now those small modest apartments have turned into short-term rentals. And it also affects neighbors. So if you have someone who, the apartment across the hall is now a party every night, that's not great. And the short-term rental aspect has been preempted by the state as well. It's been, taken away from us. Although we do have some measures and controls available there. And I'm trying to think of some other issues that have been preempted by the state. Those are the 2 that come to mind. And yeah, that's another one.
Yeah,
right?
The plastic. Yep. But I think the short-term rentals is a huge one because it's a massive issue for our for our renters.
Yes.
And I think that people don't really put a lot of thought into that. Listen, I'm somebody who supports, home ownership and people being able to do what they want with their property to a certain to a great extent. But when that impacts our rental markets, it drives up the prices for homes, which forces people out of their homes, because a home is not just a home that you've purchased. A home that you rent is also your home.
Right.
And we see people who've left communities because they can't afford to live there anymore.
Yes. Yep.
Because
it's all over. Yeah.
And look, everyone wants to make money. I want to make money. You want to make money. We all want to make money. But at the end of the day, we have to protect our communities. Like you said, when we already have a very transient population in South Florida. We have people who come and go. And you mentioned Miami Beach in particular it has seasonal workers, and we have people who come and live here part of the time, maybe full time, but there's a lot of different types of residents in Miami Beach. But I definitely think that this short-term rental issue needs to be, I think, discussed more widely, because I think that what people are not seeing is even though our prices are going up for goods and services, we see our healthcare premiums going up right now. We see basically everything going up, and we're not seeing rents come down. And I think I've heard some of these, I don't know, social media comments about, part of the mass deportations is to kind of remove people out of the housing market to reduce prices, which is, yes, of course, that's a lot.
And scary, but
sad and scary, and not true, by the way. Also not true, especially when you have people who can, take advantage of that situation, and then again, more short-term rentals rather than opening the market up for more people to be able to rent and to buy, because that also pushes people out of the purchasing market.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you have now like big LLCs that will come in and purchase units, and companies that will purchase units, and then they will rent them out as short-term rentals, and it really is detrimental to our housing affordability and market. So there's got to be a way that we can work on that. And I'm happy to reach out to our state legislatures and have a conversation with them about it. Because I'm all about, I do think that relationships are key here.
Yes.
And I've seen other folks who don't value the commonality of relationships who end up not being effective because they, aren't willing to work together, and that's not the type of person I'm going to be. I'm definitely going to be able to work with others and able to
collaborate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it's
key.
That's key, especially this is a nonpartisan race, right? It's a nonpartisan race.
That's right.
And you mentioned you want to be the Miami Beach commissioner for everybody.
That's right.
And I think that proof is in just how well you did in this race and the work that you've put in, and what you've said here about meeting your neighbors, meeting the citizens, knocking on doors. I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, thank you.
Monica, can you tell us how, I'm sure people listening are just as inspired by you as I am and have been.
Thank you.
How can they get involved in your campaign? How can they volunteer? Can they support you and learn more about your campaign?
Thanks, Laura. First, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for having me on today. You're just so sweet and kind, and you're doing great stuff in the community, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You deserve all these accolades because you're a rock star.
I'm just a worker bee, but thank you.
You're awesome. If you want to reach me and help me out in the campaign, you're more than welcome to do so several different ways. My email address is monica@monicamateosalinas.com. My phone number is 305-968-3112. I'm not scared of giving out my phone number. It's okay. You can call me or text me.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fine. And I will respond within 24 hours. That's another thing that I think is very important, is responsiveness in local government and in city government, because, if people have an issue, they want to know that, like you were saying, that they're being heard and they're being responded to. So it might take me 24 hours, but I do plan on responding to everyone that reaches out. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I think my Instagram is like Vote Monica Mateo Salinas. But you can reach out all of those ways, and I'm happy to connect with you, and let's do this. Let's win this.
Absolutely. Well, I know if you're at home listening, please, or on your device, let's give Monica all the support we can. Let's bring it home for her and make sure that we have a better Miami Beach.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I know with you leading the charge, we are going to do great things.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Monica Mateo Salinas for Miami Beach Commissioner.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.